Coach Cam and the professor are back again, this time bringing you our preview for the divisional rounds of the NFL playoffs. Will, I'm not going to lie to you. I had to day job like a broke boy today. So, my prep work for today's content feels a little lackluster by my normally lofty standards. As far as like the games themselves go, I'll be rock solid. But normally my script writing is a lot more like detailed and in depth. So I may be going off the cuff at some points. So you might need to reel me back in. But the content must be delivered. Screw adversity. We got to bring the content. So we'll recap real quick last week. I don't want to go into like too much other than if we missed. I think I'd like to ask you if there's anything that you would have done different knowing what you know now, or if you liked your pick and would run it back again next time. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. So, fun little exercise. I think it'll be good for the viewers to see kind of how we process the data we're given in game and how we use it for future reference. My dog's freaking out right now. So up first we have Texans and the Chargers, which we were both on the same page about, which is generally in our history, it's a good thing. When me and you line up, it generally breeds a lot of success, but not this time as the Texans win this one pretty easily. What are your takeaways from this game?
I mean, 9 times out of 10, Justin Herbert is not going to throw 4 picks. Do I now seeing, Texans playing at home, all that, would I probably change my pick in hindsight? Probably, yeah. I might have taken the Texans cover. Um, Maybe even bought it up to 3.5 since it was at 3. But 9 times out of 10, Justin Herbert's not going to throw more interceptions in one playoff game than he did all year. And I mean, like, I would do it. I would do it again because if of any people I expected to lose this game for the Chargers, Justin Herbert was the last one.
And I has he been in like the playoff atmosphere? Like, is that like how many times has he been in a playoff game?
He's 0-2 now. It's a pretty rough resume in playoffs right now. He blew a 27 to nothing lead against the Jaguars like 2-3 years ago, and then
Shoot, he
this
that
game.
was him.
Yeah,
So, and that's kind of like it's almost like the Clayton Kershaw effect, whereas like that the regular season play is, I mean, upper tier. I think he's a great quarterback, but there's like this postseason, like when he gets to the big game. I don't know if it's necessarily like bright lights. Like I don't. He doesn't strike me as the type of guy that like gets nervous under the bright lights, but like because Kershaw didn't strike me as that. It's just like this like taboo thing where it's like the big game happens and he's known as a guy that doesn't show up. And so like to me, Herbert has to prove that wrong. And so I feel like going into like if it happens next year, like it's gonna be in the back of my mind, like, okay, it's Herbert in a big game. You know, do I lean the opposing team cover, like whatever that is? I think I might and make him prove me wrong. So I think that's kind of where I would like, differentiate, knowing what I could have looked at like the game against the Jaguars and like that would have been some, but like that was what 2 years ago.
it was a while ago,
You know,
and
you
yeah,
think like developmentally he's like a lot's changed, but you see some similarities there. He threw 3 picks the entire regular season and threw 4 in a singular game in the
yeah,
playoffs. Like that's insane to me.
it's crazy. And I think too, what a lot of people forget is that coming into this year, no one expected the Chargers to be even in the playoffs, look this good all
True.
year. I think they're ahead of schedule. I don't think this roster was nearly as good as the Texans. Um, the O line was definitely not great in that game as well. Justin Herbert
They
obviously
haven't been all
missed.
season.
Justin Herbert obviously missed throws, which led to picks. But there's also one that tipped off the tight end's hands.
Yeah,
So
Disley's got to catch that ball. That
um,
one was not on Herbert. Disley has to
no,
catch that.
no. But I think looking back at it, I see the play, and I just you just take it on the chin because that one we just got wrong. But if I
Yeah.
looked at that game again 9 times, I that was one of the more confident plays I had. 9 times out of 10, I'm taking the Chargers.
I think that was probably my third most confident. Yeah, I think it was my third. I think Commanders and Bucks and then Rams and Vikings were like my top 2, but I think that was my third. We'll move on to we'll do Ravens and Steelers. Don't need to spend a ton of time on this one. We both predicted lower point totals, and we both delivered on that front. I had the under total game. Hindsight, like, it would have been less of a sweat if I went with the Steelers. Now, the Steelers did score, like, a couple times, like, in quick succession,
At
and
the
I was like,
very
"Oh,
end, yeah.
shoot," and I thought we were both screwed, but the Ravens reeled that in real quick and, totally delivered there, so we nailed that one. We'll move on to, Bills and Broncos, where we both thought the Broncos would be competitive. It was Broncos +9, I believe, is where we sat. Both wrong again. Same page and then both wrong, so that's twice now. I don't It's not like us. What are your thoughts here?
That one, I think I just read too much into the okay, coaching, and then also I think I just read it too much into the fact that, oh, it's a giant spread for a playoff game. I should have just taken the team that we knew was significantly better all year and has probably, if not the winner, the runner up for the MVP. And I mean, in the first half, it looked great. It was 10-7 at halftime.
I know it.
Then they scored 21 unanswered, and it was 31 unanswered technically the entire game. It was 7-0, and on an explosive play. That's all the Broncos could get, and
Yeah.
then 31 straight points from the Bills.
I know that first drive, I'm thinking like, "Okay, we're looking pretty good," and it quickly went downhill. Big takeaway for me, Josh Allen is like 9-0 at home in, like, the last calendar year. Like, he doesn't lose a lot at home. I thought 9 was a lot. I really did. I thought 9 was a lot for a playoff game, but let it be known, viewers, blowouts happen in playoff games. You see it in college football, you see it in pros. Like, just because they're 2 playoff contenders doesn't mean they're still on equal footing. The Bills are clearly the better team, and the Broncos are another team, like you said about the Chargers, they're ahead of schedule as well. They got a rookie quarterback. They've got half their defensive players you couldn't name at the beginning of the season, so they're also ahead of schedule. They've got a run game they can't quite figure out. They go this committee thing, and I don't think any of the 3 are really, like, standout back, so they gotta improve in that area. So I think that's another team that's would they have 5 wins last year? Something like that?
Something like that.
So, ahead of schedule and, glad they got the exposure, and Bo Nix needed that. I think that'll help him for next year, especially facing a titan like the Bills. Like, that's if you're gonna face a team in the playoffs, like, that's a good barometer for what this is what it should look like if you wanna be a playoff team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll take that one on the chin. I'll wear that. I think, the Bills were clearly the better team, and I should have played off of that. Let's go Packers and Eagles, which we both missed also. You had the over, I forgot the number, 45 maybe, is sticking out
Yeah,
in my head.
45.5, I believe. Yeah.
And, I took the Packers to cover. I'm mad at myself because my secondary play, like my other lean, was the Packers under, which that would have happened easily. So for me, if I had to do that one over, the hindsight tells me that was a safer play. And so, like, I kind of gravitate towards team totals anyways because there's only one variable to have to control. Whereas if you pick like a spread or something like that or a total team, it's like you have to keep track of 2 teams and what they're going to do. I feel like 9 times out of 10, I'm always right about at least one team. And then me winning the bet is, am I right about the other team also? I definitely had the Packers nailed in this one. And so I should have just gone because I didn't have a ton of confidence in the cover, but I knew they'd have trouble scoring. So I should have just gone with the under and played the safe route. I think what scared me is I think it was like 18 and a half. So it was like kind of like lower. And that I think that scared me out of it a little bit, but I should have just gone with that one. What do you think about yours?
Yeah, mine was just a bad read. It was one of my more confident ones. I didn't expect both quarterbacks to play like absolute traffic cones. Um,
Yeah.
like Jordan Love was just there chucking it up. Jalen Hurts was just there. That was it.
Yeah, he wasn't
He
really playing.
he was on the field. That was about it. And n- neither offense could really do anything. Like I think the Eagles probably could have done more if they weren't like up a decent amount. They probably would have kept their foot on a little bit more.
Yeah.
But they could tell that the Packers were not doing anything on that defense. The first pick from Jordan Love, the one to Zach Bond, was inexcusable, horrible read. Literally just didn't see him. I can't remember the second one, but I know the third one he just threw it up in a triple coverage,
It was like a
and
50 well, it was like a 25-75.
yeah, Yeah, it was
Because
bad.
multiple defenders were there.
And now I remember the second one. It was a really good play by Darius Slay downfield. That one, that one, I can see making that throw. It was a one-on-one. Throw it up, give your guy a shot. It was a tiny bit underthrown, but not really.
I was about to say, I think it was underthrown.
It was that one. That one classifies as 50-50 to me. Darius Slay just beat him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one. I mean, you've seen that throw happen, and like they'll take the risk, and half the time it ends up being a penalty on the defense because they don't track the ball, and
Yeah.
they'll play the receiver, and they'll generate a PI that way. So I'm with you there. The pick over the middle, that was the first one he threw.
Hmm.
I don't know how he didn't see him, or what window he thought he was hitting, but
The
that one wasn't there.
their green blended into the field apparently.
Yeah, that was not there. I mean, you could that one was clear as day to me. And then poor decision. Just not a good look with a lot of defenders in the area. And then I'm with you on the 50-50 one, but not a good day from him overall, I don't think. Last two, we nailed both of these. So this is good. We can end on like a good note. So this is all the viewers will remember. That and the props, which we'll get to the props.
Yeah.
That was a clinic. So Commanders and Bucks, great game. This one, the flow of the game kind of went pretty similar to how I thought it was going to go. The Commanders are dangerous, proved it on a big stage. Jaden Daniels he does not look like a rookie under any circumstances in any football game he plays. Like he just does not have that look. They're a ton of fun to watch. We both had the +3. We had the same play. I'm pretty sure it was
Yeah.
Commanders +3, and they win 23-20, something like that.
Hmm.
So they get the win there. I think they look great. It's a dangerous team. I think they're going to be good for a while. I think this is just the beginning for them. So I'm happy for them. The other one, if I had a lock of the week, it would have been this one, the Rams and the Vikings. I had the Rams cover. What did you have for this one?
I had the under.
You had the
I,
under. Yeah.
I said Rams money line as well, which banged, but I had the
Yeah.
under. It was like 44.
Yeah. Yeah. And that hit because only one team scored the ball.
Hmm.
Yeah, I took the Rams cover, and I took a flyer on a Rams money line. I had a ton of belief that they would win this football game. Just it's just I saw Darnold under the bright lights in that last game of the regular season, and I'm like, this is carrying over. This is carrying over straight into the playoff game, and it did. Like he looked very much the same, maybe a little bit better in some spots, but he holds on to that ball forever, dude. Like he
Yeah,
won't let that thing go.
I was just about to say the 9 sacks. Some of them were on the O line. The O line didn't play good at
I
all.
think less than half, though. I think maybe
But yeah,
4 of them.
which I
He's
mean,
holding that thing.
4 is still a bad number. But yeah, like he held onto the ball a lot.
And he wasn't even when he did let it go, they weren't even great decisions half the time. I
Nope.
think when he got better is when the game got out of hand and the Rams took their foot off the gas. So when
That
it
and he
become
had to throw it. He had to take
I
risks.
mean, yeah. And so but like to me it became more of like the lights were less bright at that point. Like there's less pressure. The game's out of hand. Like you can't lose the game any more than you did. And that's to me is when he started to look better. And I feel like that's what teams are going to see when like they look at film on him. It's like, okay, great, but if we're a playoff contender, yeah, if we're planning on being like 6-11, then he's probably a great quarterback for you. But if you plan on like contending and playing in a playoff game, I'm looking at that film and I'm like, you're gonna have to prove to me that you're not gonna keep doing that.
Yeah.
Because he was not the same guy the last 2 weeks of the season compared to the regular season. Let's move on to props. Admiral job on both ends. You put on a freaking clinic going 3-0. Derrick Henry hitting his over. Puka
Smash.
running the ball a single time and hitting his rush over. 7 yards on 1 carry. And Jaden Daniels throwing more than 31 pass attempts.
Yeah, he threw like 35 or 36, something like
Yeah, it
that.
was like 35. Just excellent work on your end. I hit on a Kyron TD. That was absolutely free. That was like first drive of
Yeah.
the game almost. Rashad White going over 10.5 receiving yards. He had 14, but it was on 2 catches. So like it was that kind of went exactly how I thought it was going to go. And then Jaden Daniels only ran for like 30 something yards. I think the line was like 48 and a half. I think so. Basically, this one you had a better read than I did. I I knew the Bucks were going to blitz, so like the Bucks always send pressure. So I was like, okay, this is a chance for Jaden Daniels to get out of the pocket and make plays with his legs, which he does on many occasions. So that's kind of how I read it. But they spied him the entire game. Sometimes
Mhm.
with two people. Sometimes they spied him with two. And the the pass game itself, which you read perfectly, was a ton of quick outs. He was short dropbacks, got the ball out of his hand super quick. So you absolutely nailed like the entire game flow of that game. You absolutely nailed. So you should be proud of yourself for that one. Um, and great job by the Commanders for having a good game plan to combat the rush. I mean, they rushed the passer more. Their rate is, I think the only one higher was like the Vikings. So like they
Yeah.
rushed the passer a ton.
Jaden
So
Jaden
good job.
Daniels is ridiculous. If you told me he was a top
No,
5 quarterback right now, I wouldn't disagree.
he's I think he's better than Stroud was last year. Remember how good we thought Stroud was last year? I think he's better than that. I think he's like a level above.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they're basically in the exact same spot. They're
Yeah,
He was young, dominated in the regular season, won a playoff game, and is now going up against the 1 seed. So, we'll see.
yeah, he's
See if he
getting
can
it
get it
done,
done.
man. No touchdown for either of us. We're gonna change that this weekend. So let's get started on the preview. So we'll start with the first game: Chiefs and Texans. Chiefs favored by 8.5. Last I looked, you sometimes you get different lines than me. Sometimes you get like a 9 or a 9.5. Over under is at 41.5 according to DraftKings. I'll let you start this one. What do you think here?
I mean, the last time they played, it was 27-19, something like that. I had the Texans covering that one, but the cover was about 5.5 in that one. So, that's it was a much smaller spread, but I'm going to do it again. Texans +9. It's a high number. I think the Texans defense will travel this time as long as they have their middle linebacker, who I like. He he messes with the game a lot, and I think the offense will be able to put up some sort of a fight to keep it within nine. Nine's a lot. Um, Basically, just keeping it within one possession, and that's the Chiefs have won like 18 one possession games this year. So it's it, the the Texans should be able to keep up, and the Chiefs always win by one or less score. And so I'm going to take Texans +9.
No, I think that's good. If I had to lean, I would lean the Texans cover, knowing that the Chiefs are gonna like I've got a same game parlay, and the Chiefs money line is a part of that same game parlay. So I agree with you there. I personally am gonna take the under 42.5. I was slightly worried about the Texans defense traveling. I'm less worried, like you said, all Zahiz Shahir, that guy, the middle linebacker, is an absolute dog. They are 8-4 when he plays, or 8-2 when he plays, and 2-4 when he does not play. So like he's a real difference maker on the defensive side. So to me, after some research, I think it's less about them traveling and more about the personnel that they have in. They also got some good corners, dude. Like that, they got some guys that can actually match up against the Chiefs receivers, which especially if you get Hollywood Brown in there, you got Hopkins in there, like, and Worthy's a matchup nightmare for some people, but like they've got dudes for all of them. I still think the Chiefs find a way to win the game, but I think it's going to be like uglier, closer to how like their games earlier in the season where they would win off like some fluke nonsense. Like I
Hmm.
think it's going to be closer to that, which would put it at an under 42.5. I'd see like a like a 2017 kind of game with something last second to get the Chiefs the win.
Guarantee it's going to be a 19-17 game. It's going to be 17-17 all. And then the Texans are going to snap the ball over CJ Stroud's head for a safety as time expires for the
they,
Chiefs to win it.
they do have a lot of offensive line issues, so and it's the interior offensive line too. So
The
it's
Chiefs are going to find
that is
another way to win with their
no,
voodoo
that's
magic.
attainable. That streak where they just like kept like
Doinks,
clock mismanagement,
snaps. It's
Like,
clock
dude,
mismanagement, block
they
kicks.
won every way. It was insane. And I think they continue that here. Well, have you got anything else on that game before we move on?
Nope.
We'll go to the Commanders and Lions. I think the spread is pretty similar. It's like 8.5 or 9.5 favoring the Lions, and the over/under is 55.5. I Dude, the Lions are freaking good, man. Um, it's really hard for I haven't seen a team successfully stop them from, like, doing what they wanna do on offense. Like, to an extent, you can slow them down, I guess. I heard Montgomery's gonna be back. He's gone through, like, a rigorous rehab, so they're gonna have both of their backs. I don't Some people think that matters a ton. I don't think that matters a ton here because I don't he might be back, but how healthy is he? Like, I don't you know, um, I worry about, like I think he's there, and I think he maybe gets, like, 8 to 10 touches, but I don't think he changes the game, not like how he normally does. I think he's still gonna be a little bit limited. So, but they've been winning without him regardless. That hasn't mattered in the last however many weeks since they, played, like, the Rams and lost that game, but still scored, like, 40 or that was they had a game that they lost, but still
The
scored a ton of
Bills.
points.
The
Yeah,
Bills.
yeah, yeah. The Bills played the Rams and had a 40 to
Yeah.
40 game that that's what I was thinking of. Um, since then, I mean, it's still you didn't stop them from scoring. It's just they gave up a ton of points. I think the Lions defense is getting healthier. They're getting Anzalone back. Um, and he's kind of a game changer for them. All that being said, I really like what I see out of the Commanders, man. Like, I just really I don't I think if one thing is true, I think Jaden Daniels is not gonna be worried about it. Like, I think he's gonna I don't think he's gonna be slowed down to that extent. I think they've got some pieces on the offensive side. They've got some receivers that can beat their DBs. Terrion Arnold still has, like, some pass interference issues. He's very handsy. He likes to grab people. He's gotten a little bit better at it, but that's still an issue. You can beat him in the middle of the field. You've been able to all year. The Commanders like doing that. I think there's enough here for the Commanders to make it competitive. I don't think the Commanders win this game. I still think the Lions are it's gonna be like the Bills thing, where it's like the Bills are still the better team, and in the playoffs, the better team generally wins this game. If both teams come out and play their best football, the Lions win this game. But I think if both teams come out and play their best football, I think the Commanders can cover at a +10. So I'm gonna take Commanders +10.
I'm going to do the exact opposite because, we've seen teams get up, take their foot off. If there's one team that never takes their foot off, it's the Lions.
No.
They will be throwing the ball up 40 like they did to the
What was that
Jaguars
game?
earlier this year.
They did it against the Titans too, where it was
Hmm.
like I think it was like 52-9 or something, and they
Yeah, like we see it with
they
big
were throwing the
spreads.
ball in the fourth.
Yeah, we see it with big spreads all the time that there's a backdoor cover. You don't back it's mainly because they take their foot off. You don't backdoor cover against the Lions. They do not take their foot off. As soon as they get
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if they're up or down. They're going to run the ball down your throat and still throw the ball for some odd reason. And then they'll probably honestly go for it on fourth down every time as well. So I think the this game's going to be high scoring, I think. But the Lions are going to do just enough to cover that 9. Um, I like I can see them winning by 10 and both of us hitting there. But I got Lions -9 because I think Jaden Daniels makes some mistakes. They love they haven't been able to run the ball, and eventually we saw it in the Philly game when they couldn't run the ball. Jaden Daniels had like 4 picks because he was trying to do everything. And I think that's kind of what happens here. I mean, they ended up winning that Philly game because Kenny Pickett was in at quarterback. But I think the Lions were able to get 9 on them. So
What I will say, and I think it's valid what you said, but what I will say is the Commanders couldn't run in that game because the Eagles have a defensive front that does not allow anyone to run the football. You can run the ball on the Lions. Like, you can like not to the It's not like running the ball on like the Saints or the Panthers, but like you can establish the run, which is why teams are able to score on them. Like in
Yeah.
general, they give up enough in that area to where like you have multiple options to make plays and get explosives against them. I don't think they run for like 300 yards. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think it's that, but I think they run it enough to make the game competitive. They'll slow the game down enough to make it competitive.
I think getting Anzalone back was big for them.
That's
Um,
massive, huge,
so
huge. Both from a passing defense standpoint and a run defense, because he gets
yeah,
to the outside faster than almost anyone. So yeah, you're 100% right. That's a huge thing. So one where I love these where we actually, because we're on the same page so often.
too
Like
often.
me and you are always in lockstep on a ton of stuff. So it's good that we can have one where we can kind of like, bet against each other, and maybe I'll talk some crap if I win or something like that.
I remember what
The
happened last time we
go-to.
did it on a Lions game. It was the Titans. You had Titans like plus 14, and they won 52-14.
Yeah, what was that? Like, ended up winning by like 35.
Yeah.
Almost there. So close. So close. Very competitive. Let's go two more. We'll go Rams and Eagles. Eagles, sorry. Eagles favored by 6. I lost the over-under. What do you have the over-under at?
44.5.
44.5. I had 43.5. All right, so that's fine too. So 43.5, 44.5, and then Eagles favored by 6. You go first this time. What do you got?
I'm going to take the under 44.5. Both the Eagles offense didn't impress me last week. And I think the Eagles defense is going to be able to at least mitigate the Rams a little bit. Um, and the Rams defense has been playing out of their mind basically since like week 8. So I think both teams are going to have really good defensive showings. And I could see something like a 22-10, 22-17. My other lean was Rams plus 6 because I genuinely think the Rams can win this game. Um, but I'm going to take the under because if the Rams are going to win, I think it's low scoring. I don't think they win a shootout.
I'm halfway on the same page as you. And I might be fully on the same page. I don't know if the Eagles score that many points either, but I'm going to take the Rams under 19.5. So again, I made the mistake last week of going full game, and so I'm going to keep it simple. Rams, warm weather team, traveling to cold weather. Not going to be fun. They're not going to have a fun time in the offense. Stafford is, I think he's going to be fine, but he's one person, right? So I think people don't take that into effect. Sometimes like warm weather teams go into cold weather, they generally don't tackle as well, and they generally don't score as many points. It's a lot harder to run things. So I think that goes against them a little bit. They could maybe, if it was another team, they could probably get around that. I think arguably the Eagles match up better against the Rams than they even did against the Packers, and they smoked the Packers. So I think there's a lot of areas where the Eagles can look, and like one thing that's tough, Kyron's got this fumbling issue. Eagles have a great run defense, and they stop a lot of people at the line. I can see Williams coughing one up in like a big situation, which would, that hurts momentum, and then obviously gives the Eagles the ball back. Also, the Eagles are 6-0 with an average of 25 points per game and giving up 11 points per game at home in the divisional round. So the good play here is for sure going to be the Eagles to win and probably cover. I think just with the matchup, I think the Rams defense can do a decent job. They'll generate a solid pass rush. And I think the last time these guys played, Saquon ran for like 256 yards.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens again. I think they make like a concerted effort to like make sure, because that was an embarrassing number, right? So I think they slow them down to an extent, but I don't think they have enough offensively to match up against the big boys up front. And arguably, I mean, they've got a fine receiving duo. Cup's not, I don't think Cup matches up against the secondary. I don't think he does. I think Puka can beat his, but if he gets Mitchell, that's tough. Quignon's a tough matchup. Dijon's a tough matchup. Like, that's a really good secondary and 2 good receiving options and 3 good secondary players. The math doesn't math there. So that favors the Eagles too. I don't think the Rams score enough here under 19.5.
White on white crime about to go crazy with Cooper versus
I know,
with
right?
Cooper Cup versus Cooper DeJean.
The Coopers going at it. Cooper squared. Last, anything else on that one before we move on?
Nah.
Last one, we're gonna go. This is, dude. This is it. This is the game. Like, I don't. Something could happen, and I don't get to watch any of these other games. As long as I get to watch this game, I am a happy camper. The Ravens and the Bills, basically a pick 'em. Ravens favored by 1.5, I believe, last time I saw.
Yeah.
Over under was 51.5. Last time I saw that. I don't think that's changed much. This, just going into this, like, honestly, whatever you pick, I would be like, I can see it. Like, it's just one of those games where it's like, I think the main thing for me is you're looking at the two top MVP candidates going at it on the biggest stage of the season. I just don't think there is a choice other for there to be like fireworks in this game and for both offenses to do a really good job of displaying why these guys are the MVPs. I think the Ravens have a little bit of an advantage defensively. I think the Ravens can also do a really good job of establishing the run because the Bills generally play smaller personnel. The linebackers aren't big, so you can run up the middle, and the Ravens have the biggest running back in the history of football. So, like, that's a matchup nightmare. So I don't see how the Bills, like, I really don't even see how they slow Henry down to be, even if they wanted to. Like, okay, and then make a concerted effort to stop Henry, and somehow you find a way to do it. Okay, well, then you've got a guy, because you're obviously filling the middle, right? Well, then you've got a read option guy who is the best at it in like the history of the league, and Lamar Jackson, who can easily dissect that and make a decision to go to the outside. And then he can also throw the ball downfield to whoever he wants with extreme accuracy. The Bills have it's a matchup nightmare for the Bills. But what the Bills have is an offense that can probably match up and score with them for the most part. So I think that's what this game has to be. I think it has to be more of a shootout. If the Bills are, I think the Ravens should be favored. Like, I know the Bills have the better record, but I think the Ravens should be favored here. I think the main thing going for the Bills is that home field advantage. I said it before. Josh Allen is 9-0 at home in his last 9. You don't beat him at home that often. So they're going to be, just based off of that, they're going to be competitive. In order for them to have to be competitive, they have to score the ball. I've got over 50.5 points in the football game. I think it's just going to be one of those. I get 34-31. It's going to be a shootout.
Yeah. I mean, hit the nail on the head. I think it's going to be high scoring, and there's basically I see there's two constants in this game. Both teams are going to score. Both offenses are going to score. Those are the two. Which defense do I trust more? It's the Ravens.
It's the
S-
Ravens.
So I'm going to take a Ravens money line. I'm not even going to take spread because they could win by one, genuinely.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, too, I don't, as much as he is the GOAT of his position, I don't trust Justin Tucker anymore. So, like, he's missed so many kicks this year. And then we saw it last year in the playoffs. It might have been last year, might have been 2 years ago. I don't trust Tyler Bass either. So we'll see with that if it comes down to a field goal. But I'm gonna have Ravens money line because I'm gonna trust the defense and the guy who is probably going to win MVP in Lamar Jackson.
Who do you think? Like, who do you have MVP? Is it Lamar in your eyes?
Who I think's gonna win is Lamar because he got first team All Pro. I
Who
don't think
should win it?
who should win it. I think I think Lamar. I mean, we say that like last year, the argument for Lamar was that stats aren't everything, but this year's both their stats are ridiculous. Lamar's are better. Um, I would probably go Lamar strictly because I mean he beat Josh Allen when they played, so I think I would go Lamar, and their division is much tougher as well. So
Yeah.
going what 13-4 in the or AFC North compared to a division that didn't have any other teams above
No,
500.
you face the Jets, the Patriots, and the Dolphins.
Yeah.
none of which were I guess the Dolphins contended for the playoffs, but you knew they weren't the same
No.
team that they normally were, so yeah. And then the AFC North had 2 teams get in, and then 1 team that no one would have wanted to play if they got in the Bengals.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I give it to Lamar too. I keep people keep saying like Josh Allen's doing more with less, and like people are sleeping on like Shakir is nasty. James Cook is a fantastic running back. Like he's got pieces. He has one of the best offensive lines in all of football. Why do you think he never goes to the ground? He's like never sacked because he's protected in the best possible way. So like he has pieces. I don't that argument never made sense to me. But I do think it's Lamar. I just think if he got, if he got the MVP with what he did last year, you can't tell me he's not better this year.
Yeah.
I mean, so then he should get it again because he's even better this year.
Both of these quarterbacks win MVP in 99% of other years.
Absolutely.
It just happened to be they're doing it in the same exact year.
At the same time. Yep. Um, okay, so that's what we had for the games. We will move on to our prop bets. Give us your first one, Will.
I went a little unorthodox with some of these. My first one
Yes, you did, but
is
you normally do at least once.
yeah, Jamison Williams over 23 and a half, longest reception. I actually have science with this one. The the Commanders are not good against play action. The Lions run play action like 74% of the time they throw the ball. And who has the most targets off play action? It's Jamison Williams. And guess what the average depth of target off that play action is? 17 yards. You telling me he has to get he catches it in stride 17 yards down the field. He can't get 7 more?
No, I think he
And
probably would.
they'll probably throw a deep ball to him because they give up a ton of explosive plays as well. And because Lattimore is going to be on St. Brown, we know that. And then Jamison Williams is going to be out of the slot. They're probably going to run some freaking fade route to him, and he's just going to dust everyone. So, Jamison Williams over 23 and a half, longest reception.
That's actually a fantastic play. All right, I'm going to go a little bit different. Um, my first one's going to be Brian Robinson Jr. over 35 and a half rush yards. They have torched this guy's rush line because he hasn't been running the ball very well. He's in a position where he can. The Lions are generally a little bit weaker through the middle. Brian Robinson likes to run through the middle. 35 and a half is a tiny line. All he needs is 10 carries for 40 yards and he hit that thing. I think he easily gets 10 carries and runs for 40 yards. I don't know if he necessarily has like a oh my god, like he's, you know, like a fantastic day, but 35 and a half is disrespectful for the guy that's been the workhorse for the team for the better part of the year. And this game is like tailored to him. Just more of like a pounded up the middle, like establish the line. Like this is his kind of game where he generally thrives. So I'm going to go over 35 and a half here.
Yeah. My next one, Lamar runs the ball a lot in the playoffs. We saw it last game. He had like 12 carries in the first quarter, something like that. So I'm going to go over 9.5 rush attempts. He needs 10 carries. He's going to have to, this game's going to be a shootout. They're going to get some pressure occasionally, and he's going to have to scramble. And they'll probably just have some design runs as well because they'll probably I don't know if they'll do it the same thing that the Steelers did and sell out for Henry, but just give everything to Lamar. If they do that, then this is going to smash. But also, I don't think they can just sell out for Henry and give it up to Lamar because we saw how that went for the Steelers. So
Right.
yeah, over 9.5 rush attempts.
I'm going to go Jalen Hurts over 200 pass yards. So the last time the Eagles and the Rams played, Saquon Barkley ran for 256 yards. I will bet my bottom dollar that they do not allow that to happen again. Like there's a pride thing in pro football, and like people are not going to forget that. A concerted effort will be made to at least mitigate the run. That being said, when Jalen threw the ball, he had only one of his targets. Devontae Smith didn't play. So it was only AJ Brown, and AJ Brown had like 100 yards on like 5 catches. And Jalen Hurts was extremely efficient and still threw for like 179 yards in a game where he really had to do next to nothing. I think Jalen Hurts has to do a little bit more, and he will have both of his targets on the outside. So I think 200 is like super attainable, and Saquon only runs for like 170.
Yeah, only. My last one, unorthodox again, like I always am. This guy got 3 carries the last time they played each other this year, and if you're telling me he gets 3 carries and only needs 4.5 rushing yards, I'm gonna take it. Xavier Worthy over 4.5 rushing yards. They bumped his line because he keeps getting carries. The 1.5 is and 2.5 is basically free. So Xavier Worthy over 4.5. Last game versus the Texans, he went 3 carries for 10 yards. If you give me 3 carries from Xavier Worthy, I'm I'm literally 100% he's gonna hit 5 rushing yards unless he gets knocked back for like a 10-yard loss, which won't happen.
No, I like that, and I've learned long ago not to doubt your wide receiver rushing yard overs. That's a foolproof method you have there. So yeah, I'm on board already. I'm already putting it in. My last one, very conventional, arguably the most conventional play that you can run during this football season. Derrick Henry over 96.5 rush yards. I Why wouldn't it? Is like it's not even like a ton of like science to back it up. Like the Bills are small in the middle. Like the linebackers are small. Derrick Henry's gigantic. They allow a lot of rush yards anyways. Like they've always this entire year, one of their weak things has been stopping the run. They're facing the best run offense in all of football. I mean, one of the two. It's to me it's the Ravens. You can argue Eagles, but to me it's the Ravens. And Derrick Henry is the biggest reason why. Um, Over 90s, I think he's going to run for 130 yards this game. He's going to be the focal point of the offense. He's going to dominate. They're not going to be able to stop him. And I think he gets over half of it in the third and fourth quarter when they're done like just beating down the defensive line. So yeah, Derrick Henry over 96.5. Those are the three props. Last thing before we go, who is your random touchdown prop? We missed out last week. We got to hit this time. Who you got?
Plus 350. He likes to run the ball a lot more when it's the playoff time. Patrick Mahomes, he's going to score. I mean, we all when I saw the line, the one thing I thought of, remember that like 40-yard touchdown run against the Titans in like 2020 that he
Yep.
did that n- like right at the end of right before half. I mean, I just think of that, and then you also got a QB sneak threat. So I think I got Pat Mahomes plus 350. One that I would keep your eye on as well. Ty Johnson scored last week. They're starting to use him a lot more, and he's up to
Using a ton.
plus 500 to score a touchdown when this game could legitimately have 7 plus touchdowns from each team.
So, riskier play for me, knowing that you're picking a Chief to score a touchdown. I am also picking a Chief to score a touchdown in a game where I had the under being my play. So, a lot's got to go right
Yeah.
for me in this one if it's also going to go right for you. I'm going to take DeAndre Hopkins facing his old team plus 265. I just think, and it's kind of like a it's just a mindset that I had. I was right with Foster Moreau. Like a lot of times, they don't always hit, but you can almost always see it where they will draw something up that is intentional to get that guy in the end zone because like when they face their old teams, it means something to him. So he's facing his old team. I think they're going to draw something up for him at least once. The thing is, do they execute the play and get him the touchdown? I think he gets the target in the end zone. Does he come down with it? So DeAndre Hopkins plus 265 for that one. Do you have anything else before we go?
Nothing else.
That is going to do it, folks. Great work as always, Will. We will be back next Wednesday after the college football championship to recap that and give our too early predictions for was it 2025 season or is it 2026? How does this work?
25-26 season.
Yeah, both of those things are represented in this calendar year. So too early predictions for that. So stay tuned on that. I will also be active on Instagram posting plays for ATP tennis, which is in the middle of the Australian Open right now. Will has had a breakthrough on college basketball and is making some serious money over in that ecosphere. So hit him up for some plays there on his Twitter page, HTL Sports. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we will see y'all next time.
Peace.